Well, today we're talking about money. 5 things that you should be doing with your money because the stories of where our economy is. Not because Wall Street's not doing well, it's doing very well. But what about Main Street? We're going to talk about some startling numbers, and as you as a consumer, you as the Main Street recipient of this economy, we need to talk about what to do. We're going to discuss that. Also, we're going to talk about another national security alert with China. We're going to discuss exactly what happened there because it is serious. We're also going to talk about now the House committee is wanting to subpoena all these people: Clinton, Obama, Brennan, Clapper, Holder. This is what I was afraid of. We're going to put them in the court of a public opinion. We're going to go in there and land blast them and act like we're going to do something. And truth be told, we should not be worried about any of that, and the DOJ should be bringing up charges. Obama came out and said, if charges come against me, you know what to do. They said there will be civil unrest in the streets. So he's trying to warn Trump administration, DOJ, not to even bring this up. This is where it's going to take real men behind the Republican Party to actually do their flipping jobs. I want to see arrest. I want to see convictions. I want to see prosecutions. I don't want to see people brought before Congress and them have their grandstand moment. That's not what this is about. We need to discuss that. And then the last 2 stories, we're going to talk about how a Christian worship was canceled and moved in Canada. The war against Christianity is real, and we are needing to pay attention to it. And then lastly, I'm going to tell you a story dealing with a police officer with me. A police officer that treated me like trash. We're going to discuss that because it was all false pretenses. And we're going to discuss what happened. And while I'm fully against regulation and enforcement when you don't know what you're doing, let's dive in. Hey guys, welcome to the Max. Thank you so very much for being here today. If you are new, please go down here, press subscribe, ring the bell, give us a thumbs up. It does mean the world to us. Now remember, we have 2 other channels. Life with Colby Mack, that's my vlog channel. I show you exactly what I'm doing on farm and how important it is to make sure that we're balancing our money, that we're living sustainable, that we're prepping, that we're having a good time doing it with our family. So go check out that channel, subscribe to it, so that way you will be entered into the giveaway just like this channel. But also, if this channel struggles, that channel will keep on going. Also, my wife's channel, Life on the Farm, you get her perspective on what's going on and vlogging as well. Do not miss those other 2 channels. Now let's jump into the stories of the day. First, let's jump into this whole situation with the subpoenas and Barack Obama stuff and all that, and then we're going to jump right into the other stories. There was a new report that said, leading report came out and stated that the House Oversight Committee is now voted to authorize subpoenas for Clinton, Comey, Barr, Garland, Holder, Mueller, all tied to the Epstein investigation and also the potential problems with 2016 and then 2020. Now, I'm sorry. I'm so sick. I'm so sick of subpoenas and House committee meetings. I'm so sick of strong letters. I'm so over all that. I am. I'm just being completely honest with you. None of this stuff should be out in the news. You know why? Every one of these people should be completely read their rights, prosecuted, put before a judge, DOJ bring up charges, and they go to a court, just like any other American would. It's amazing that these people have so much power and so much clout that what they're going to do is they're going to go before Congress. This is what's going to happen. I'm just going to be honest with you. This is what's going to happen. We're going to have all the pundits and all the political hacks get on there, talk them, land blast them in front of the public, tell them how bad and crappy they are, and then they're going to rebuttal, and then all of a sudden Fox News, CNN are going to fight over it. And that's going to be it. You will never see any of these go to jail. It's sad. I've yet to see arrests made. All we've done is bring it up. Like, as much as I like what Tulsi Gabbard exposed of Barack Obama, that's great. It's wonderful. But why are we doing it here, and why are we not giving that to the DOJ? Why is the DOJ trying to do this out in the public? This is the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. The DOJ should be bringing up charges and having arrests done. They arrested Trump. They put him in court. What's the deal? Why are we not doing the same thing with Obama if these articles are real and true? Obama came out in a speech yesterday and said, I'm going to sue them, and then on top of that, if they come after me, you know what to do. That's what he was telling his audience. There's already been 2 political pundits saying there'd be civil unrest, massive protests, and riots in the streets. So you see what they're doing? They're trying to play it as, well, look, if you try to do this, we're coming back at you. But you know what? Here's the truth. If truly there's some bite behind these allegations, and there's truthfully criminality, you wouldn't do this in the court of public opinion. You wouldn't do this in grandstand in Congress. You would actually bring charges and do it the right way. I'm anxious to see what's going to happen with this, but I'm scared it's turning into a circus, just like what most Republican situations happen. They bring them before, people like Nancy Mace and Jim Jordan and James Comer, they all yell and talk about all the stuff they found out, and not one thing ends up getting done to these people. I mean, think about it. Think about all the people that's been before the committees subpoenaed. What's happened? Eric Holder has been held in quote-unquote contempt, and nothing's ever been done, is it? See, that's the problem with Republicans. They have no bite. It's like a Chihuahua versus a Rottweiler. They yap a lot, but nothing gets done. The bite is pathetic. You get the Rottweiler in there, something might happen. So this is what I'm saying. If Trump really wants to see bite and really wants to see staunchness, he better get his DOJ involved, and they better do something about this. And now this goes along with what Mike Lee just said. Mike Lee said, tell your senators to either stay and get the job done confirming 135 Trump nominees that's pending in the Senate, or let Trump do recess appointments. So while we're taking recesses, while we're doing all this stuff, and while we're having all these problems, Senate and Congress decide to take a recess and get out of Washington. And Mike Lee saying, look, either we stay here and do our job, or just let Trump appoint all these people and let them go straight through. There's 135 pending nominees of Trump's. Now we're 6 months into his term, and we still have people pended in the Senate that is ran by Republicans. This is what I'm talking about. Weakness, weakness, weakness. Establishment, establishment, establishment. We're seeing what Republicans are made of. Either they're going to actually fight for the people, or they're going to be weak and inept like they always are. The little Chihuahuas versus the Rottweilers. Before we get to the 5, talking about the economy, I want to jump in this other story about that Sean Feucht just shared. This was actually shared by CNN anchor, and it says, Christian rocker Sean Feucht is moving his Nova Scotia concert to a rural field after multiple Canadian cities canceled his events for safety and values concerns. Feucht blames anti-Christian bias and vows to continue his worship tour. Now what's happening is, if you remember, this is the Lettuce Worship guy. He's the curly-haired guitarist, usually doesn't wear shoes. But here's the thing. You're starting to see, now this is the same Canada, just like our American cities now. American cities, remember, this happened in Seattle where they shut down worship. But this is the same kind of situation that we see with mostly cities allowing for protest of Iran, protest with support of Palestine and Hamas, which are terror groups, Iran and Hamas. And they'll literally say death to America, death to Canada, death to the West. They allow those people to get permits to do demonstrations, to do what they call their faith and values. However, they won't allow this Christian artist to do the same thing. See, it's not just a double standard. It's a hatred towards Christianity. It's a hatred towards the one true God. This is where we have to pay attention, because there's new reports. Like there's a report coming from Florida. I want you to listen to what this report from Florida said. And this is an imam. He says, Muslim man says that he is buying up churches all over Florida and converting them into mosques. He said, one day Florida will become Muslim. May we have praise to Islam in this country. But see, we will actually permit and hold problems for Christian events, but we will allow this Islamic spread to happen across the West, across Canada, across Mexico, and of course across our prison systems, and even in America. But we will ban the faith and values of the Christian man. This is happening. Yesterday, what did I tell you on the story? They took the guy out that was a Christian MAGA supporter, arrested him, but left the people with, truthfully, terror headbands on. They were able to do what they wanted to do. But the guy with the MAGA hat that was saying America first, arrested. That was in America. So you see how the West, even under good leadership, you see how we're still struggling. Even under conservative or Republican leadership in the Senate and Congress, again, not passing and letting those nominees through. Even through all of this quote-unquote good stuff that's happening, there's still an underlying problem that no one wants to talk about. It's this Muslim faith, this danger to America and danger to the West. It's already taken over Europe. It's probably going to end up taking over Canada, because Canada has lost all faith and values in Christianity, and they've just said, you know what, we're done with that. And guess what? Muslims are moving in. This is what's happening in America. That's why you see those border states with Canada seeming to be a little bit more Muslim and not Christian. we had a mission group that we knew that went to Maine, and they said that we had to be very conscientious. You know how they have no solicitation on the businesses where you can't come in and ask for money? In Maine, some of the policies in their neighborhoods is you can't go around and try to profess Christ. You can't try to minister to people because they don't want you there. That's dangerous. Did you know there's less churches in Maine, Christian churches in Maine, than there is in my county alone? There's less than 80 Christian churches in Maine, but in my county alone, there's probably around 80 Christian churches. Now, I'm not saying that's a good or bad thing. That could be, spreading the flock too much. I don't know. What I'm saying, though, is we're seeing this spread like a virus. And the danger of the hatred towards a Christ follower to the fact that everybody lets the Islamic quote-unquote protest because it's freedom for them go is a bigger problem. This happens in Canada, but it's also happening in America. It's happening in Europe. It's going to keep on happening because we don't have any good leaders who are actually willing to quote-unquote stand up. Where's our Christian leaders, our faith leaders, who are not politicians? They're Christ leaders first, and then guess what? They make changes. That's what's got to happen. Now, before we go further in the video and before we talk about the 5 things that you should be buying, along with some of the main stories dealing with our economy, a word from today's sponsor, Chapter. Chapter has been with me now going on about a month and a half. The reason this has been important to me because my father turned 65 this month, July. And guess what? He had questions. He tried to figure out what's the best way. There were so many people trying to sell him this part, that part, this supplement policy, this covers doctors, this doesn't cover doctors. Is it enough coverage? Is it not enough coverage? Am I just getting oversold because somebody wants to make a commission? That's where Chapter comes in and helps. There's a number below. Check with Chapter. If you're 65 or older or about to be, if you have questions about Medicare and how and to navigate what the right plan is for you, Chapter can help. Chapter is not meant to be a sales pitch to you. It's not meant to be a commission-based business for you. It is absolutely free. They're an advisory for you. They work for you, and it's free. In 15 or 20 minutes on the phone, you can save, the average American saves $1,100. And I've seen this in 2 occasions where I've had people write me and say, look, I've saved $800. The other person said, I've saved $1,240. This is happening literally even with my audience. If you have the best plan, hey, they'll tell you, and guess what? Then you'll sleep better knowing that someone sold you the right thing. But if not, Chapter can help you get on the right path. Check with Chapter today. Medicare is tough to deal with. It's hard. It's government, so it's difficult. The parts and the supplements and the A, B, C, Ds and all this jargon, it's hard to navigate. Let Chapter help you, and I promise you, you'll come away thinking, man, I've saved some money. And at 65 and older, saving money is a big deal. Check with Chapter today. Thank you again, Chapter, for sponsoring today's video. Now let's jump into the stories dealing with the economy, and then we'll end up with my story with the police. I want to read a few headlines. The housing crisis is killing Americans. The American dream is not red, white, and blue anymore. It's very bleak and gray. There are now more home buyers that are age 70 than 35. That is a dangerous, dangerous thing. Subprime auto delinquencies have now surpassed 2009 levels, reaching a 15-year high. That is not a good thing. Now listen, Mike Lee shares this. 27% of federal revenue in June paid for the interest of the national debt, meaning we had a surplus. However, even with that facet, we would have to have within hundreds of millions of dollars extra a month to cover the debts because Congress is still spending. So that means our economy is not quote-unquote getting better yet. Hopefully Trump will change that, but we need help from the Congress. U.S. hiring is slowing down and taking a toll on recruiting firms, and 2 filings of bankruptcies have happened just this week with some of the biggest businesses in America. So you see the problem right there is always going to be down to, yes, things are going great, but we have made such a hard bed that we got to sleep in it. So 5 things that I'm telling you to do right quick. This is my thought pattern. My thought pattern is this. I see that crypto is going up. If you want to buy crypto, great. Not for me. So I'm trying to find ways that I can put money in something else. So number 1 is put money in something else other than just cash. Here's what I'm saying. I would look at buying a little gold, a little real estate. Here's another thing. I would look at buying an antiquity of some sort, or I'd look at, again, not that I'm in crypto, but if crypto's your thing, crypto. Here's why. Because we need to find another way to put our money up just in case. That is something, to me, I like tangible, so I look at gold. That's just me personally. I like gold. Number 2 is I still want to stockpile cash. That's one thing that I personally have been doing lately, is I've been stockpiling cash. So that way when I choose to buy something, no one else knows about it. I can purchase it. Again, it's not this bad. It's just my freedom to know what I'm purchasing and only what I'm purchasing. If it's things for Aiden's house, or if it's things for if it's things for prepping, if it's things for my bunker, whatever it may be, I'm buying it. I want it to be between me and that other person. So number 2, I'm stockpiling cash. 3, I'm watching what I spend. Me and Misty, even though we've done very well for ourselves, even though we're personally out of debt, here's what we've done. We're not just overly spending. So we're very conscientious of what our Amazon is, what our Costco is, what our Whole Foods is, what we need to buy this week, what the farm needs. What are we doing? We're writing budgets. Even though we have surpluses most months, we want to keep that surplus. So therefore, as things go up, we're very conscientious. So we're watching what we spend. Number 4, I've been preaching to some of my staff getting out of debt. What this means is cutting up the cards, maybe selling the new vehicle, maybe getting a smaller home, or getting in a better rent situation. I'm trying to save them more money per month. It's not the fact that you can just get out of debt quick if you've got the same thing. So there's 2 ways to get out of debt quick. You either add more income or you cut your expenses. Simple as that. So either you take the side hustles on, which I've told a few people this week, you need to do some side hustles. You got to work harder. You chose to put yourself in a hard situation, so now let's work harder and do some side hustles. I've done 2 to 3 jobs my whole adult life. Since I've been 16, I've been working 2 to 3 jobs at a time. Is that fun and easy all the time? No. Sometimes it's very rewarding. Sometimes it's very sustainable. Sometimes it's very hard. But it's the way that we did it to make sure that we can have independence and sustainability personally without looking for someone to help us and without us going in piles of debt. The other side of that is you got to quit spending. If you got a high car note, sell the car or turn it back in. I wouldn't turn it back in and ruin your credit, but I would try to sell the car for what the notes are and get a smaller clunker car or cheaper car. Same way with the credit cards. Cut your credit cards up so you won't use them. You can't use them if you got them cut up. I know that's so simple, but it's something psychological saying if I don't have it, I can't use it. If you have it, you're going to end up using it, because that's what we've done for so long. Number 5, last thing, is this. Quit wasting money on things that are frivolous. And here's what I mean. Quit eating out. Quit eating out. Food is probably the worst way to spend money. Meals and entertainment. That's what I always say. Meals and entertainment. People don't realize how much they spend on coffee, Burger King, McDonald's, Walmart. They have no idea. Quit spending money. Learn to eat at home. Learn to take your lunch to work, and learn to tighten that budget. Starbucks is great coffee. I'll be honest with you. Even though they're liberal, nuts, crazy, it really is good coffee. But can you afford $5, $6, $7 a day for a flipping coffee? Quit. Make it at home. You can make it for a few cents. Learn to make a yummy coffee, frou-frou, put all your junk in it. Don't spend money with meals and entertainment. You've got to slack that off. Those 5 things can help you, because right now, people can't even afford homes, they're auto delinquent. You know why? Because either they're too far in debt in their homes, they've actually bought too much car that they couldn't afford, or they've allowed for the market to manipulate them, meaning they just get impatient, and so they buy a house for way more than it's worth. Right now, the market, they said, will have to go down because people are not able to buy the homes at the rates that they're at. They're too appreciated. That's why I'm building Aiden's home versus buying one in town, because they're too appreciated. And so it's going to make a whole lot more sense for me to stay on budget, stick to it, tighten it down, get the home that we're wanting without overpaying for it. Don't be impatient. Be smart. Make sure you're not wasting money. Stockpile as much as you can, and buy something that holds value more than just the dollar. Now, still stockpile cash, but make sure that you're putting some money up doing some other things. Now, last 2 stories I want to jump on. There's a national security alert that had happened based on another Chinese situation. We have to guard ourselves and keep ourselves safe. Chinese citizen admits stealing U.S. trade secrets for next generation national security tech. This is where I'm so upset that we allow our tech companies, our colleges, our big businesses to bring in people on visas and green cards that are not citizens of America to work. This makes no sense to me, because what they're going to do is work for their other governments. Why do you think they've got the passes from totalitarian governments like China? Why do you think they allow their students to come over here to learn? They're brilliant. It's because they want to get the intel that they're needing. This just came out, said this was in California. U.S.-Chinese citizen who pleaded guilty stealing space-based missile detection secrets that remains on a bail. Now, this guy will probably rot in our prison. His secrets already went back to China. This is why Like Microsoft fired 9,000 people last week, but then they put in for 5,400 visas for people to come over from overseas because they didn't have enough workers here. So they fired 9,000 Americans to hire 54 green card recipients for India, China, and whoever else. So therefore, those people are not actually native here. They don't want to work for America values. They don't want to make America great again. They want to make whatever their countries are, and they want to get rich doing that. And then what are they telling their countries back at home? Remember, no matter what we think of India and China, they're brilliant and they're big powers. And they're also part of a different currency that wants to destroy ours. They also want our missile detection. They also want our AI super capabilities. So why are we allowing them into some of the biggest, most vulnerable situations? This is a national security threat. Just like I talked about last week with the water and the state water, of course, in New Hampshire, that sold to a Chinese businessman for cash, 4 times what it's worth. And now they have complete control over the water. I have a big story coming out on water tomorrow. Wait till you hear it. It'll blow your mind. Last story I want to talk about, and this is personal because this is why I cannot stand regulation and enforcement. And I say this with very hard, but I say this with a caveat. Do I support police, sheriff, highway patrol and all that? Absolutely. Here's the caveat. I support our military. Here's the caveat. The regulation runs the enforcement. So the police that just shut down the Christian man who was wanting to sing, that was a regulation. The enforcement happens, the police shut them down. Remember, 2020 wasn't long ago. Liberal states, their regulation used enforcement, which is police, to shut down and arrest people on beaches and so forth, and malls and so forth. Those police may have not been bad people, but the regulation made them do things to enforce against America's freedom. Now let me tell you my story. I get hot about it. Now there's problems with drugs, trafficking, and major speeding violations. People who are not getting arrested that should be arrested each and every day on our streets and our roads. We know that. So I hate speed traps or roadblocks. Cannot stand them. I think they're the worst way of using police presence ever. Unless they're looking for someone specifically, then that might work. But no, this is like speed checks, and they've been doing speed checks in this part of Mississippi. So no big deal. I know officers. I know the lead officers and chief and sheriff, and that is they're literally doing speed checks. They're not wanting to actually do anything else. So anyways, I'm coming to work and I pull through, get to speed check, no big deal. I said, here's my license, was in my car. And he said, pull over. I said, okay, is there a problem? He said, I said, pull over. Now, first of all, your arrogance is unbecoming. You didn't say good morning, you didn't say how you doing today. You want to act like a tail wipe to start off, no big deal. But you're not even telling me why you're pulling me over. So pull over on the shoulder. Shoulder's all tore up, so no telling what it did to my car's entire. Pull over. Never came back and talked to me. Came back with the ticket and said, here's your ticket. I said, so why am I getting a ticket? He said, if you just give me a second, I'll tell you. Very stern. I said, okay. He said, your tag is out. I said, no, sir, it's not. I said, the sticker, in my county government, the tax collector and tax assessor's offices are very good at collecting your tags and your taxes. However, they actually suck with their mail, and they can't keep workers. So guess what? Hundreds of people's tag renewal stickers get lost in the mail. That's what they tell you. They get lost in the mail. Well, if you try to go up there, they charge you another $3 or $4 to just get the same thing they already mailed you that they said they'd be there in a few weeks. So most people just wait on them. So I said, well, sir, if you call in my tag, it's good. I said, all you got to do is, just like most officers, call in the tag, and it will show that it's been renewed. The sticker's not here because, as you know, our tax collector struggles getting mail out. He said, no, you've got a ticket. I'm going to give you a ticket. This is what you got. Your tag's out. And I said, you know what? I said, okay. I said, I'll take the ticket. I said, but you're wrong on this. He said, I'm not wrong. The whole time, too, an absolute tail wipe. His arrogance was so high. And I understand they deal with a lot of difficult people, a lot of criminals, and so therefore they have a tolerance that tends to be on edge. Understandable. But what we're doing is they're enforcing something that wasn't even right. Guess what? I called the Justice Court number. I said, and I know him personally. I called the tax collector. I know personally. I said, listen, let me tell you what just happened. Told him the story. He said, yeah, your tag's not good. We'll dismiss the ticket. I said, here's the thing though. You're wasting tons of people's time and effort to go to work, to do a job, to pay the taxes, to pay his job. All because the regulation shows that he's got to check tags. He's got to check whatever. However, he's not doing his job because all he had to do is call the tag in, and guess what? The tag would show that it's been renewed. You know what the guy told me? He said, well, they don't actually check tags. They just check the stickers. I said, so what you're telling me is if I was not proactive and I just assumed that he was right, I'd come up there and pay for another tag. He said, essentially, that's what happens. So I had to question it because the government is not sending me the tag renewal. They're taking my money, cash the check, renewed the tag, but didn't send me the sticker. And now the police enforcement is enforcing the tag and enforcing the sticker that supposedly didn't get here because of the mail. But now they're giving me a ticket because they chose not to check with their own office to make sure it's covered. That's bad. So, am I mad that I got a ticket? Well, I got out of it. But am I mad that I got a ticket? It's not about the ticket. It's the arrogance of the cop with his fact that he was enforcing something that was not even important. He was enforcing something that he didn't even have and do his due diligence on. He was enforcing a regulation that the regulation hadn't even got right. So that's what our government does. They set regulation, they set policy, they try to enforce something, and ends up falling in their face like a pie in the face because they absolutely don't do it correctly. Big government is not necessarily a good thing. You know this push from New York City where he's like, we're going to have a government-run grocery store. Guess what? They tried it in Kansas. It's failing. No food's on the shelf. Government sucks at doing things. That's why they leave it up to private business. This yesterday, him acting like an arrogant, pompous jerk to me just because, and all the time, he was the one in the wrong. I was the one in the right. My problem is not the enforcer. It's what they're enforcing. And when you have bad regulation, bad government, bad policies, guess what? They're going to enforce that because that's their job. That's why you be very careful of more government intervention in our life because it does not come usually in a good thing. Guys, my freedom's important and your freedom is important, and less regulation, less enforcement is actually a good thing. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts on today's video. God bless.